Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, colleagues, graduands and all guests. With great pleasure, I welcome you to this afternoon's graduation ceremony. I hope that you can hear me at the back, but the layout of the auditorium makes it difficult to hear everyone to hear me at the same time. So I hope you'll excuse me if I turn to address the graduands at one point. For much of my life, I've been giving academic lectures which last about 50 minutes each. And the piece of advice I was given for this welcoming address is keep it down to 3 or 4 minutes, so I'll do my best. But I remember Mark Twain, the American writer, who, like most writers, found it easier to write long than short. He received a telegram from a publisher. Need 2-page short story, 2 days. Mark Twain replied, no can do 2 pages, 2 days. Can do 30 pages, 2 days. Need 30 days to do 2 pages. So it's often easier to do things that are long than it is to do things that are short. But I will try to be brief. We are celebrating achievement today. We are celebrating the achievement of all of our graduands. And on behalf of everyone in the university, I congratulate you on your achievement. We have before us today graduates from the Faculty of Health and Social Care, from the Faculty of Education, from the Graduate School. We're also very pleased to be congratulating Dr. Karen Groves on the award of an honorary doctorate. And a couple of our colleagues from the teaching staff will be getting awards as well, nominated by students. We also say hello and welcome to students who have studied at other locations, at Birmingham College, at Holy Cross College, at King George V College in Southport, at Preston College, at Riverside College, and at the Shrewsbury College of Arts and Technology. We live in the university world in turbulent times, and all of you will know something about the increase in fees and the ways in which the new generations of students are going to have to pay a lot more for their education than our graduates today have paid. We've been watching the figures with some care, and I'm very pleased to say that Edgehill has bucked the trend. Across the country, there are about 10% less applications, 10% fewer applications by English students to study at English universities. At this university, we're in the top 4 for the whole country, and our applications have increased by about 7%, and we're actually, by some margin, top in the northwest region. So I think you will agree, and I hope our graduates today will agree, that we must be doing something right. We have been nominated 3 times in the last 5 years to be the University of the Year. And so far, unfortunately, we're just the bridesmaid and not the blushing bride, but I'm hoping that next year may be our year. We're consistently in the top 2 in the Northwest in the National Teaching Survey. So there is certainly something that we are doing well. This university was founded nearly 130 years ago as the Edgehill College in the city of Liverpool. And it was founded with a very particular mission. It was founded in order to give opportunity to young women who wanted to become teachers. It was the first training college of any in the United Kingdom to train exclusively women to become teachers. It was also founded with a very particular view that it was important that education should be for the people and not necessarily controlled by the churches. And so it was a secular foundation, non-denominational, there for the good of education of the whole society. And that kind of open approach remains with the university until today, and I hope for many, many years to come. It is what we call a widening participation approach, an attempt to try and give education to all who are able to benefit from that education. And I'm sure many of you here today will be the first in your family to have come to university. And I'm sure that your parents, your friends, your supporters, your partners will be extremely proud of you for the achievement which we are recording today. But also we say thank you to those who have supported you. And I'd like you to give a round of applause to all your supporters, all your parents, your friends who are here today. Just say thank you to them. So apologies that this is not amplified. I hope that you will be able to hear all that goes on. The recording should be a good recording because the sound has not been affected by the recording. So if you can't hear today, then at least tomorrow you can look on the internet at the recording that we're making and hear what you missed. I'd like to end on a personal note. I've worked for 40 years in 5 different universities in this country, and Edgehill is my last of those 5, and I shall be retiring at the end of the summer. And like you, I will be an alumni of the university. And I hope that, like me, you will want to stay in touch with your university, to consider it as your university in the future, just as it has been for the last few years. The university is a community. It's a very welcoming and friendly community. Of the 5 universities that I have worked in, I can say without a doubt that this has been the most friendly and welcoming university. And I think that is the reason why we do so well in the student surveys, because we support our students well, we hope that they achieve good results, and there are some splendid results today, and we give them that kind of environment in which to flourish. So I hope, like me, you will consider yourselves to be a part of the Edgehill community in the years to come. Thank you very much.
Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, colleagues, graduates and guests. Today we are honouring Dr. Karen Groves, Medical Director of Queen's Court Hospice in Southport. Even if you do not know Karen personally, I am sure that many of you in this room will have had some association with the hospice. Here at Edgehill University, Professor Barbara Jack in the Faculty of Health has worked with Dr. Groves on a number of research publications in the last few years, most recently evaluating the Queen's Court at Home service, but also on projects that acknowledge the importance of a whole team approach in community and palliative medicine. These include publications from last year entitled Partnership for Care and Side by Side. Dr. Groves is driven by the desire that a patient facing the end of life should be given every opportunity to spend that time living and not dying, and that they should not have to tell and retell their story over and over again to different professionals who are involved in their care. She is passionate about health professionals working together across boundaries for the good of the patient, and I know that this will strike a chord with many of our graduates here this afternoon. More significantly, many of us here have links to the hospice because of our friends, family and loved ones who have spent some of their last days in the loving care of the hospice staff. As a member of staff who's worked here for over 20 years, I have come across many students and staff who've become so passionate and committed about Queen's Court Hospice because of the personal support that they and their loved ones have received at the most difficult of times. I remember one student in particular who broke down in the middle of a careers interview when I asked her how she was going to spend her summer, because she was going to fundraise for the hospice. And she then relayed a long story to me about the wonderful Dr. Groves, who had eased her mother's pain in the last days of her life when other professionals had not been able to do so. So who is this wonderful Dr. Groves? Karen Groves was born and educated in Liverpool, qualifying as a medical doctor from Liverpool University in 1979. However, I am reliably informed and not that surprised to discover that Karen's earliest career aspiration lay in teaching. And it is that passion for education and sharing knowledge that has been a key component of her medical career and is one of the reasons why we are honouring Dr. Groves today. After graduation, Dr. Groves worked as a house officer and then embarked on a GP vocational training scheme, working for over 12 years in general practice in the Southport area. It was during this time in the mid-80s that Karen first identified the need for better end-of-life care after experiencing two particularly traumatic deaths in young women. Death was in many ways a taboo subject, but Karen knew that it didn't have to be that way, and uncontrollable pain did not need to happen. It's probably a good time here to mention that in speaking to some of Dr. Groves' colleagues, they described her as tenacious, stubborn, can drive you mad, and if anyone says we cannot do something, she will always say, why not? And it was these characteristics and unyielding determination to ease the pain of her patients that drove her to seek advice from Dame Cicely Saunders, who's the founder of the hospice movement, visiting her in London to find out what could be done. On her return, she and her nursing sister Sarah inspired a small group of people to begin fundraising for a local hospice. That was in 1984, just 5 years after she qualified as a doctor. At Edgehill, we constantly encourage our students to engage in volunteering activity. And Dr. Karen Groves is a great role model and inspiration for our students, as she herself was a volunteer doctor at the hospice, whilst working full-time as a GP for 5 years until she was appointed as the medical officer there in 1991. In 1992, Queen's Court Hospice became famous throughout the world as Princess Diana shed tears at the official opening. And by 1996, Dr. Groves had become the first full-time consultant in palliative medicine for the hospice, hospital and local community. With her passion for learning and teaching and not being one to stand still, the Terence Burgess Education Centre was opened next door to the hospice in 2001 to spread the word and share the knowledge of palliative medicine, not just with other health professionals, but also with teachers, clergy, nursing home and catering staff, and all who are involved in the many different aspects of palliative care and bereavement. Indeed, this knowledge of teaching and learning has been disseminated at international level by Dr. Groves at The Hague, in Lisbon, Geneva and Vienna, to name just a few. In fact, Dr. Groves is renowned for her international conference posters. Now, these are usually A0 in size. If that doesn't mean a lot to you, as it didn't to me, it actually means that each poster is 4 feet by 3 feet. Now, just a little tip for you if you're going on summer holidays. Packing your suitcases for air travel is quite restrictive these days. So anyone here this afternoon who would like some packing tips for your holiday, you might want to ask Karen's husband, John, who's here in the audience, at the end of this graduation ceremony, how he manages to get 25 of these very large posters on the aeroplane in hand luggage. Dr. Karen Groves has also been described to me as a bit of a gadget queen. And if you bump into her in Liverpool 1 and she isn't shopping for shoes, you'll probably find her in the Apple store. Her love of IT is well known, but more importantly for Karen, it's about embracing new technology to provide better communication, information, and a higher standard of care for her patients. A major achievement of hers was to integrate the patient's records of the hospital and community specialist nurses with the hospice team into an electronic patient record. And this was met with some hesitance at the time, but Dr. Grove spent evenings and weekends teaching nurses, doctors and therapists how to use it, and the team would not be without it now. As stated earlier, she is a person who regularly asks, why not, when faced with the words, this cannot be done. She will go to great lengths to make something happen if she thinks it is for the benefit of her patients or their families. Examples of this determination include arranging weddings and other significant family events for dying patients at very short notice, arranging for patients to have their pets brought into the hospice, and this has included a horse, and challenging other services to do things better for terminally ill patients, such as encouraging the local ambulance service to pilot a rapid discharge scheme for patients who want to go home to die, rather than waiting for hours for an ambulance. Dr. Groves is regularly described by many who work with her or come into contact with her as an extraordinary woman. Patients regularly cite her compassion, her determination to find a solution to a particular problem, and her amazing insight into their difficulties. Colleagues speak of her total commitment to her patients, and it is this love of her patients that is so evident to their families, and is why the hospice has hundreds of committed supporters and volunteers each year. All who work with her are often astounded by her level of commitment and her real desire to make things better for patients and their families. Her colleagues have described her as a perfectionist and quote her as saying, "You have only one chance with the patient to get it right. There is no rehearsal." They also describe her as a visionary who now in 2012 is still as excited about the work she is doing as she ever was, who flies to the top of the mountain while the rest of the team are hanging onto her feet. Pro-Chancellor, on behalf of the university, it gives me the greatest pleasure to present Dr. Karen Groves for the award of Honorary Doctor of Science.
Just to prove a point, I'm not going to allow technology to let me down. Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, staff, graduands and guests. It is a great honour to be here today receiving this award. I would like to thank Jackie Howe for her kind and generous words, many of which I feel belong to others, whom today perhaps I merely represent. It is over 30 years since, as a very junior doctor in my first job, I was faced with a woman in her 30s, slowly dying of cancer and in pain. At the same time, a 12-year-old girl with a rare connective tissue disorder lost her fingers painfully, one at a time, as she died alone in the side room of an adult female ward. Each of these struggled to cope, had desperate family who struggled to understand, and I, as the junior in the medical team, struggled to know what to do to help. My seniors didn't speak of dying. They told me that giving opioids would cause addiction, and assured me there was nothing to be done. It was 3 years later when I went to work on an elderly care ward, where the ward sister had undertaken one of the very early care of the dying courses. On her ward, no one seemed to die in pain. Patients' needs were met, and families understood that their loved ones were dying. There was sadness, of course, but not the distress and struggle I had witnessed elsewhere. She showed me what to prescribe and when, and how to talk to patients and their families about those things that everyone else avoided. This ward sister had something that I hadn't seen before. Cicely Saunders' name will be familiar to many of you as the founder of the hospice movement. Thrice qualified as a social worker, a nurse, and a doctor, she was a multi-professional team all by herself. Having seen dying people frightened and in pain, she and her colleagues in pre-computer days painstakingly recorded on punch cards patients' every symptom and clinical sign, every drug and dosage change, every side effect and every success. In this way, she built up such a wealth of evidence that this feisty woman was able to take on the medical profession and their fear of the use of opioids, and the ripples of her work continue still as hospice and palliative care services grow today. I and my sister Sarah, a nurse by profession and equally passionate, went to meet Cicely Saunders to learn from her what could be done and discover what we needed to do to rectify this intolerable situation for the local area. Together, we started fundraising, educating the public and gathering other like-minded individuals, some of whom, having stayed the course, are still here today. And the rest, as they say, is history. We now have Queen's Court, a tribute to the past and present visionary trustees, hundreds of volunteers, and the local community, who believed and still believe that caring for the most vulnerable and frightened in our society with dignity, compassion, knowledge, and skill is a top priority. Queen's Court works in an integrated fashion with the NHS to ensure that patients and their families receive a seamless specialist service which crosses boundaries and reaches them wherever they are. We are proud to work with our local hospital, care homes, GPs and district nurses in the community to develop with each innovative ways to care for people where they are and take hospice care to them. The Terence Burgess Education Centre at Queen's Court, supported by those same visionary trustees, was developed so that interactive, relevant and practical education would be put to immediate use in daily life. Our job is to help to support them all and fill the gaps that prevent people from staying where they want to be, and the Queen's Court at Home service has been an excellent example of this. All of these achievements can only happen because of the huge team of committed people of which Queen's Court exists. And I would have been unable to take the opportunities I have without the huge support of family, colleagues and friends to whom I am ever grateful and eternally in debt. I've had the good fortune to experience 4 universities in my educational life. Liverpool, where I spent 5 fun-filled undergraduate years, followed by Cardiff and Bristol, which each took shares of my postgraduate palliative medicine education, and then Edge Hill, where studying clinical education with Kathy Sherratt has been and continues to be exciting, stimulating, and forward-thinking. So much so that we have managed to encourage at least another 8 clinicians and trainees to follow suit from Queen's Court. As I have watched Edge Hill, our local university, grow exponentially over the years, so too have our links increased. We have provided placements for nursing and other Faculty of Health students, and worked with Professor Barbara Jack in evaluating the successful at-home service, and in developing the research capacity within Queen's Court. In addition to this, Kath Baldry and I have worked with Brian Smith and the Solstice Centre in the challenging task of developing an online platform for the experiential Opening the Spiritual Gate course, created to assist healthcare staff to recognise and appropriately meet the spiritual needs of patients and families in the difficult environment of a spiritually poor and politically correct NHS. And our final link, I notice that this wonderful combination of green and purple is not only Wimbledon colours, but also reflects the green and purple of the newly decorated wards at Queen's Court, whatever might be next. So where does the future lie for you graduands as you celebrate your hard-won achievements? Imagine how it could be for you now, filled with knowledge, skilled and ready as you meet the challenges ahead, unstoppable and ready to be creative. Both the NHS and the education system are struggling. Seriously short of money and experienced staff, reorganisation abounds yet again. But where does that leave the patient, or in the case of education, the learner? It is time we stopped being paralysed victims of the system and grasped the opportunities that exist to really make a difference. We need you to be creative and positive. There are no other alternatives, and we will not get this chance again. So congratulations on getting thus far. What you do with that now is the crucial bit. Stand up and be counted. Be prepared to be different. Stand out from the crowd. Stand up for what you believe in. Make a difference. There is no such word as can't. For the patient's sake, for the learner's sake, imagine and make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Last year, the Students' Union approached the university recommending some form of recognition for the many outstanding lecturers who not only deliver excellent learning and teaching, but also go the extra mile in encouraging, developing and supporting students. To our collective surprise, we received over 600 nominations for more than 200 tutors in that first year, and the Chancellor's Teaching Awards were born. This week, I have the privilege of making presentations to just 12 of those 200 nominees, those whose commendations were particularly compelling. And this afternoon, I have the privilege of giving 2 teaching awards. First, the Chancellor's Teaching Award goes to Tony Bewley. And the second award goes to Janice Summers. Congratulations. Well done.
Vice-Chancellor, on behalf of Academic Board, I represent students from the Faculty of Education who are candidates for awards today. Master of Arts in Design and Technology Education, Sean Bretton. Paul Stephen Seddon. Master of Arts in Early Mathematics Intervention, Judy Ann Atkinson. Jeanette Brooks. Rajshi Desai. Margaret Horton. David Morris. Susanna Ruth Oaten. Linda Story. Master of Arts in Education, Early Mathematics Intervention, Evelyn Jane Green. Master of Arts in Education, Early Years, Lindsay Bolton. Master of Arts in Educational Leadership and Management, Benjamin Paul Atkins. Sarah Kirkham. Leslie Ann Sweeney. Master of Arts in Geography Education, Amy Victoria Lawrence. Master of Arts in Inclusive Education and Special Educational Needs, Julie Marie Bird. Andrew Taylor. Postgraduate Certificate in Early Mathematics Intervention, Anne Masterson. Postgraduate Certificate in Education, Emma Linton. Linda Jane Loach. Darren John Walsh. Melanie Williams. Sharon Diane Williams. Postgraduate Certificate in Research, Mark Howard Champion. Lisa Knight. Donna Maria Pierce. Postgraduate Certificate in Specialist Primary Mathematics, Mark William Avis. Claire Elizabeth Baker. Lindsay Barker. Julia Bayman. Susan Elizabeth Campbell Kelly. Ruth Crump. Christina Cubbin. Louise Anna Davis. Samantha Jane Davis. Joanne Dawn Dean. Helen Louise Dixon. Diane Elcock. Katie Elizabeth Giles. Nicola Glover. Tracy Hart. Darren Hilton. Lisa Karen Holt. Mandy Jane Hopkins. Amy Louise Keane. Jamie Trevor Mason. Gemma Louise Middleton. Deborah Mortimer. Tracy Moult. Gemma Ridgway. Heather Russell. Alison Ann Stowell. Kathleen Elizabeth Thomas. Deborah Ann Wallace. Anne Louise Warren. Caroline Mary Whitehouse. Helen Ruth Williams. Kelly Williams. Postgraduate Certificate in Specific Learning Difficulties, Dyslexia, Janet Lucy Hollinghurst. Judith Laura Hudd. Rachel Keats. Catherine Lander. Sandra McKinnon. Angela Marie McNell. Bridie Ann McSorley. Delif Sian Owen. Lynn Margaret Root. Alison Jane Steele. Christine Ann Tattersall. Vice-Chancellor, that concludes the presentation of students from the Faculty of Education.
Vice-Chancellor, on behalf of Academic Board, I present students from the Faculty of Health and Social Care who are candidates for the award today. Bachelor of Arts with Honours in Counselling, Glenys Arthur. Barbara Crank. Christina Fairclough. Norma Johnston. Stephen Westby. For Bachelor of Arts with Honours in Health and Social Wellbeing, Megan Alice Margaret Dearden. Jennifer Louise Dempsey. Abigail Margaret Belinda Heaton. Evan Parker. Nicola Parr. And Lisa Williamson. But for Bachelor of Arts with Honours in Leadership and Management in Children's Services, Vice-Chancellor, the following candidate has also been awarded the Faculty of Health and Social Care Prize for achieving the highest overall average percentage mark for the cohort, Julia Barbara Ball. Nicola Ann Bond. Erica Catherine Campbell. Holly Francisca Coots. Linda Lorraine Dawson. Beverly Fleming. Kimberly Louise Sumner. Christine Yvonne Pierce. Kimberly Louise Sumner. Francis Taylor. And Jessica Turner. For Bachelor of Arts with Honours in Social Work, Amy Beaumont. Claire Chanel. Mark David Crotty. Caroline Dawn Dixon. Melissa Donovan. Karen Elizabeth Hill. Caroline Jones. Jason Keith Michael Keller Webb. Selena Kent. Sean Neary. Gemma Louise Quinn. Sarah Ridgway. Stacey Joanne Rutter. Chloe Seabright. Kevin Sinclair. Victoria Marie Swift. Deborah Watling. Craig John Wilson. For Bachelor of Arts with Honours in Women's Health, Kelly Ashley Jade Atherton. Francis Beddoe. Sophia Lavarini. Emma Hedgney. Sophia Lavarini. Gemma Morgan. Megan Lucy Rumsby. Laura Thompson Harper. And Abby Walters.
Bachelor of Science with Honours in Complementary Therapies, Dominic Duffy. Susan Lyons. Alicia Cara Maguire. Margaret Metcalfe. Jessica Quayle. Laura Elizabeth Tomlinson. Bachelor of Science with Honours in Health Sciences, Adam Davies. Bachelor of Science with Honours in Integrated Children and Young People's Practice, Helen Mary Bailey. Claire Louise Benson. Alison Denby. Lynn Finnegan. Donna Marie Foster. Mandy Madeline Gardner. Amanda Gentry. Fiona Rachel Hobson. Vice-Chancellor, the following candidate has also been awarded the Faculty of Health and Social Care Prize for the highest mark in the dissertation. Deborah Elizabeth Main Semple. Tracy McTaggart. Kira Ann Murphy. Cheryl Louise Palman. Rebecca Joanne Pridmore. Catherine Margaret Riley. Victoria Linda Seddon. Sally Ann Walker. George Wayland. Claire Anna Whittingham. Bachelor of Science with Honours in Nutrition and Health, Lisa Marie Cahill. Farhat Parveen Chaudhry. Peter Field. Laura Formby. Cyrus Hall. Paula Louise James. Nia Louise Jones. Muqtadir Ahmed Khan. Lauren Ann Molyneux. Nomalanga Patience Sibanda. Rebecca Charlotte Warlow. Bachelor of Science with Honours in Public Health, Margaret Christiansen. Michelle McFarlane Johnson. Lisa Marie Nash. Jane Louise Rawson. Suzanne Shallcross. Abby Katie Tickle. Bachelor of Science with Honours in Support for Families and Communities, Cheryl Bradbury. Vivian Heons. Leanne Rebecca Williams. Bachelor of Science with Honours in Working with Vulnerable Adults, Jacqueline Ann Harrison. Carol Riding. Jeanette Ann Vale. Jane Louise Wilcock. Foundation degree, Arts in Playwork, Lisa Ann Lloyd. Rebecca Percy. Lorraine Purcell. Faye Scott. Foundation degree Science and Integrated Practice, Early Years and Children, Alison Harmston. Lindsay Hesketh. Julia Main. Deborah Lynn McCulloch. Saroj Happy Ogogo Amarui. Louise Rostron. Claire Van Coverlet. Stevie Whiteside. Foundation degree Science and Integrated Practice, Young People, Joanna Marie Jones. Deborah Kiggins. Lindsay Jo Rudge. Foundation degree Science in Working with Families and Communities, Karen Kerner. Rebecca Davenport. Folasade Ijewer. Samantha Kelly. Donna Louise McGaw. Stacey McKnight. Helen Sidi Muanjani. Emma Louise Scrutton. Amanda Whaley. Diploma of Higher Education in Women's Health, Kimberly Maria Gordon. Vice-Chancellor, the following candidates studied for their award at Birmingham College. Bachelor of Science with Honours in Public Health, Mandeep Kaur. Robin Matthew. Robin Puvathoil Varghese. Arun Sasikumar. Vice-Chancellor, the following candidates studied for their award at Holy Cross College. Elizabeth Sarah Astley. Ursula Emma McKee. Vivian Jane Whitten. Foundation degree in Integrated Practice, Early Years and Children, Gail Louise Affleck. Tracy Kavanagh. Jane Rowlands. Christine Watts. Adele Whittle. Rosalind Zabul Greenhelg. Foundation degree Science in Integrated Practice Young People, Gillian Sarah Rabansha. Vice-Chancellor, the following candidates studied for their award at King George V College, Southport. Foundation degree Arts in Counselling, Carolyn Jane Baker. Pauline Yvonne Evans. Karen Ann Talent. Vice-Chancellor, the following candidates studied for their award at Preston College. Foundation degrees Art and Counselling, Christine Abraham. David Clayton. Brenda Cornwall. Anne Lorraine Dixon. Rosmin Hussain. John Morris. Shanaz Patel. Julie Tyra. Lorraine Watson. Vice-Chancellor, the following candidates studied for their award at Riverside College. Foundation degree Science in Integrated Practice, Early Years and Children, Heather Lynn Bennett. Shirley Boyd. Sandra Brown. Lisa Joanne Fairclough. Alison Louise Halpin. Carol O'Neill. Deborah Maria Roberts. Michelle Shelley. Pamela Story. Vice-Chancellor, the following candidates studied for their award at St Helens College. Foundation degree Science in Complementary Therapies, Kelly Cole. Jessica Woolston. Vice-Chancellor, that concludes the presentations of students from the Faculty of Health and Social Care.
Ladies and gentlemen, technology notwithstanding, I hope we're going to bring you a song for our graduating class of 2012. Will you please welcome Miss Lucy McHale?
It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory, and you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long. A beautiful smile to hide the pain. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I would like to be. I could fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared I want you to know I know the truth. And I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I would like to be. I could fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. Did I ever tell you you're my hero? You're everything, everything I would like to be. I could fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. You are the wind beneath my wings.
Thank you, Lucy. Apologies again, ladies and gentlemen, for the audio hiccup. I hope it hasn't spoiled this afternoon's proceedings. For those of you who aren't the most magnificent of photographers and have problems with batteries running dry, etc., as Pro Vice-Chancellor David Law said earlier this afternoon, the entire ceremony will be on the university's website from either tomorrow or the following day. So if you just want to be part of it or you want to see something again, it will be on the website. Find the link graduations and you should be able to find it. Of far more importance, refreshments are now available in the student hub, which is the modern building to the rear of the main building. Now, as the students today come from the Faculty of Health and the Faculty of Education, you parents are probably more likely to know where the main building is rather than they, if they either live here or across the lake. Please do not fall into the lake. Students, if you jump into the lake, your awards will be withdrawn immediately.